just for us to have an opportunity to talk about the design for the Education Program API. So Pearson VUE shared a document which I think everybody has had access to and looked at, and they have set up a call with us on Thursday to review any questions we have before they finalize the design. So it's only a draft at this stage. I wondered if it was helpful if I just recap on what institutions and departments and programs are. Does that help?
Sure, Kath.
Okay, you guys are a little quiet. I'm just gonna turn up my volume a bit. Okay, so let me just share my screen a minute.
Okay, Kath.
Gonna do that now. Yeah. Okay. So can you guys see my screen?
Yes, Kath.
Great.
No.
This is the current. No?
1 minute. Yeah, we are able to see it. Yep.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. This is the current school reporting website. So that the site that's currently live, and basically, when you create an institution has 3 levels in the hierarchy. So I'm going to pick. Actually, no, I'm going to pick this one, Argosy University, because I keep using this as an example. So this is a big university in the US, and it has a lot of campuses. So you can see it's got campuses in lots of different states of the United States. And this institution has 3, all institutions have 3 levels in the hierarchy. So at the top level here, you've got Argosy University, all campuses. So this is the overall organization, the umbrella organization, if you like. And then within that institution, you've got all of these departments. They're set up as departments or schools, but they're actually individual campuses. And what may happen is that, in fact, what is likely to happen is that each of these campuses is run almost as a separate organization. So the team, the admissions team at Dallas, the guys who look at the school reports and verify applications at Dallas, are going to be completely different from the team in Nashville. So there's quite a lot of autonomy, I think, in big organizations like this. So we have Argosy at the top level. Then for department school, each of these are a department school. And then let's take the example of Denver. Each department or school will have a program. And this is, I've been doing some investigation into this, because what I have discovered is that it's rare that all 3 levels of the hierarchy are actively used. Like typically, an organization like Argosy will have lots of different departments, but then they won't have any programs. You know, they'll just have, you just have this default here, which is all programs. Alternatively, what you sometimes find is that you'll have an institution that doesn't have a lot of different departments and schools, but they might have different programs. So it might be at the program level that you get the variation. And let me just share something that I put together, because I think this may help. You still see my screen?
Yep.
I'll share this with you, because this is something I put together for the product team. So this is typically what you get. You get the institution here, and then you may get either one department or you may get multiple departments. So in the case of Argosy University, they have lots of different departments, one for each campus, but equally you may just get one. And then within a department, you'll get a program. And sometimes these are divided into like graduate programs, postgraduate programs, but more often than not, like more often, we just create a default program called all programs. So here's the Argosy example. You've got university, you've got each of the campuses, and then each campus just has this default program called all programs. So there's quite a lot of variation in the customers that we currently have. And I think what's a bit annoying is that it's not a well-used hierarchy, in that I really think that we would get away with 2 levels and it would be fine. But we do need all 3 levels of that hierarchy, because Pearson VUE and the way their architecture is designed is really dependent on having all 3 levels. So it means that we're going to keep needing to create departments, we're going to keep needing to create programs, and in some cases we'll have a default level here, or we'll have a default level here, but we do need to retain this hierarchy. This is what's come through from our discussions with VUE in the last week. They're really dependent on us having that 3-level hierarchy. So on the test taker side, if I'm somebody who's taken a Pearson Test of English exam, and I want to send my score reports, sorry, system's a little slow, and I want to send my scores, then if I searched under Argosy, I would see this. See all the campuses, and I'd also see all programs. If one of these campuses had more than one program, so if you remember kind of back in the hierarchy, if this particular campus had more than one program, if they had undergraduate and postgraduate, for example, we'd get another kind of program here. Is I would see, for an example like this, like Denver, I would see that listed twice, one with the postgraduate program and one with the undergraduate program. So what the registration site does, that the test takers use, is they split out wherever there is one of these, that will be listed as a separate line. So we have to replicate that structure. What I'm working on with JAG and in UX and with a couple of other business stakeholders this week is just redesigning that journey so we make it a bit more intuitive than it currently is. So but the upshot is we need to retain that 3-level hierarchy. We just need to think about how that works from the user's point of view. And then the other thing is, when score reports when candidate results are sent through the R10 notification, so we get the results notification, we later will get a score allocation. So when a candidate sends their scores, for example, to Denver, if I chose to send my scores here, then, oh, Kalpana, what? Oh, I've just got an ancient message from you, Kalpana. If I decided to, where am I? Send my scores here, we would then get another notification, the product sold notification, and that would include the 3-part code: institution, department, and program. So that score report is then linked with the program. So that's just another thing to mention. That's the way that the VUE architecture works. So in this design, oh, where have we gone? There's our document. What Geo, the architect for VUE, is setting out is how all of this works. So at each, how we get the institutions, how we get the programs, and how we get the departments, and how we get the programs. Looking through it, it seemed pretty straightforward to me. I know there were 1 or 2 questions. I have a few questions too. So, I'm kind of asking about what is mandatory information. It looks like we do still need to include quite a lot of information on program, for example. And then there are a couple of questions from the team. So it's over to you guys, really. I've got a couple of questions captured in here, but should we work through those now before we talk to VUE? Did you have any general questions about this, what it's about, and which user stories it relates to in our backlog?
Well, yep. I had a question. So I think, so if you see my questions, so it says, so are we joining tables and not associating them? Since in the current architecture which we see, if you say institution, right? So an institution has an address. So all are associated into a single, into a single JSON for me. But over here, I see that, there's a chance that we might have to do a joining between two separate collections. So that was the question. That is what the question was.
What would we be joining? What are we joining?
In the sense, so over here, if you see school, right? A school has an institution code, correct?
Yes. So you've got that again. You've got that sort of. It's basically this. So you've got institution. This is school, and this is program. It works like that. You need to create an institution before you can create a school, and you need to create a school before you can create a program.
Okay, so what I was thinking was instead of doing a join, probably if we associate, right? So, for example, an institute will have a collection of schools. A school will have a collection of other entities. So I was thinking on that behalf that whether we should be having it like that, because the current architecture, I mean the current schema architecture is like that only. I mean, if Vinod can also confirm that.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense, because it's a one-to-many. So one institution could have one or 50 schools.
Yep. And I also had this question running on my mind. Say, for example, if you take University of Colorado, right? So they have two separate locations. One is in Denver, which they call Denver CU. Okay. And the other in a place called it's in a place called Boulder. Okay, which is in the same. Which is in Colorado itself. So so probably should we also include? I mean, will the name will be like Denver CU and Boulder CU, or will it be like I mean, will it be something like University of Colorado, and these two will be separate locations? Is that that's my question?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is that it isn't always consistent, right? So there's no, in terms of, we have a hierarchy. In terms of how that hierarchy gets used and the naming at each level, it can vary by organization. So, I mean, in some cases we would have the example you gave where you've got two different locations or two different campuses. In some cases that might be programs, and in other cases it might be departments or schools. I mean, we don't seem to have a lot of consistency really in terms of how we set up institutions. But the point is, I guess, that you would be able to associate two locations or two campuses with the same institution. And I think that's the important bit. Yeah. So I think in the example you gave, you'd have a University of Colorado, right? And then you'd have, what is it? What did you say? The Boulder,
you'd have
Denver. Yeah. There'd be one campus, I think. There'd be two campuses, so that would be two schools.
Yep. Okay, got it. Yep. And
I think that test takers will allocate at the program level. I think it's worth checking that. But they can't allocate to a school. They can't allocate to this bit. I think they have to allocate here. So the information that we get with a product sold notification will have all of these. It will have the 3-part code. It would be that code, for example, R7NZ453. So that's the level that candidates will send their scores to. Now, how we then retrieve them is up to us. Like, we can just retrieve them at this level. But I think that's the way it works.
Okay. Yep.
Which is a little crazy, only because we don't really use this level much at all. So I don't know. To me, it just doesn't seem very efficient, but I think we're stuck with it. Don't think we can change it. I think for me, a two-level hierarchy would make a lot more sense. It would just be more efficient, but I don't think we have a choice about that.
Yeah, because you would send your scores only to a particular campus rather than sending.
Exactly. Yeah. So you're sending your scores. I mean, this is the example, right? You're sending your scores here. So I would choose that. But it's here. We've got 3 levels. We've got the institution, which is this bit, Argosy University. We've got the campus or the department, The second level in the hierarchy is this bit, Argosy, Denver, Colorado campus. And the third level of the hierarchy is this bit, all programs, because you have to create a program level, even if you're not doing any variation at this level. So you're not splitting this into different programs. You still need to have a level, which is program, a third level. And what usually happens is that the customer support people who set up institutions will just create this sort of default all programs, because there has to be a container within this, and test takers allocate at that level.
Ideally, that would be something like a department, right? I mean, say
this is the naming convention we use in the current score reporting website, which we'll probably have to stick to, is institution is top level. So Argosy here is the institution. Department school is the campus.
Oh.
Department stroke school, yeah.
Okay.
So this bit is the school, and then I would need to, and then if I wanted to add a program, I'd do that here. But at the moment, we've just got, you can see it here a bit better. So you've got institution, Argosy, department school is Colorado campus, and then program is all programs. That there is the three-level hierarchy. And that's the code that associates with it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So we need to build that, unfortunately. And then when we either create institutions or we update institutions, this is what this does. So if we, on our new site, we're going to start, because at the moment we've only got institutions, as you probably remember. So we need now to find a way, we need to design a way to add departments and programs to an institution, because at the moment we only have the institution level. And then whenever we create a new institution with a department and a program, or we update an existing institution by editing it, that information goes back to Vue, so that when the test taker, because this is the registration site that the test taker uses, it's managed by Vue, when the test taker comes to allocate their scores, they are seeing the latest. So if we made an update to an institution here, it needs to reflect in what the test taker sees. So we might change the name of something. For example, we might, Argosy might open a new campus. So the university might open a new campus in, I don't know, Minnesota. And then we would need that to show. If somebody is searching under Argosy, we'd need that new campus to show. So anything we do on our site needs to reflect on the Vue site, the Vue registration site, which is what all of this is about.
I mean, Vinod was asking a question like, will Vue use our API, or are you supposed to push data to it?
I think it's their API, yeah. I think they're building the API, and then we would need to build, I guess, any dependent services. So this is something that they will build, their education program API, and this is a design for the API. Then we need to make sure that, one, we're storing data and in a way that makes sense. So we need to create that three-level hierarchy for all institutions. We need to maintain what is done in the current score reporting website. And then we need to find a way of exchanging that data, so that when we create institutions or update institutions on our site, that update is pushed, which is what all these, because this is a REST API, isn't it? So that's what all these kind of get and put commands are about. So we will use their API, but I assume that we'll also need an API of our own, or some kind of dependent mechanism where we can exchange the data. So when because we're pushing to them rather than vice versa. Yes, we're pushing to them. That's the really key bit, isn't it? We are pushing information to them because it's institutions we create or institutions we update. What will happen is we will get all of the current institutions that Vue store. They will send that's their historic import. So we will get an import of all of the current institutions on Vue. And then we will load those in, and we'll need to store them here, right? So we'll need to manage all these institutions. And then when we come to update those institutions or create new ones, we are pushing information to Vue, and we're using their API to do that. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yes.
Brilliant.
So it's interchange.
Yeah. So that's the crux of what this document is. It's making sure that, I guess, we understand how we are going to be pushing data to them based on the endpoints that they have in place and the kind of actions. Yeah.
Now it makes sense to have a front end over here.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
We have Aditi over here, so it makes sense now.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. There was another question I saw as well. And I had the same question, actually. It was about activation and deactivation.
I did have a question on that.
Here,
so,
this is rather strange. So yeah, go ahead.
So like, that was the same view of Vinod as well. So like while deactivating, we are deactivating all the 3 levels, right from the institution till the program. While reactivating, aren't we supposed to bring the state back to the original? Isn't it correct, or how is it like? That was just out of my mind.
Yeah, it seems to be. So at the moment we do, in our new site, we need to build in the ability to activate and deactivate. So we don't have any of that right now. I assume this is all part of, so this is the original site. You can see here that this is active. It looks like, interesting. It looks like on the current score reporting website, you have activity. Okay, you have activity at each level. I hate this site. It's so hard to navigate.
Yep.
So we got here. Yeah. So we've got an active institution. We've got active departments, second level. And then we've got active. So there is activity at every level of the hierarchy at the moment. You can presumably make these active or inactive by editing. What Vue is saying is if we deactivate at the institution level, then automatically all the programs and departments are deactivated, right?
Yes.
Which makes sense, because if I'm deactivating a whole university, then I'm assuming that none of the schools within that university and none of the programs within those schools are going to be active, because that makes a lot of sense to me. You wouldn't have, because otherwise you would make a program inactive, right, rather than a whole institution. So I think that makes sense. But then they say if it's subsequently reactivated, then we need to manually, or the users of our site need to manually reactivate, and that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, that was the same. That was our view as well. If you see comment, like, we just wanted to know what is there,
what's the constraint? Yeah. Why? There must be a reason. There's probably a technical reason why they do it, or there might be a process. There may be a reason for it, but it seems, it seems strange to me, because if you're reactivating a whole institution, then you would want all of those departments and all of those programs within departments to be active again. So let's find out what the constraint is and why it works that way. We can ask them that question.
Sure.
Otherwise, does it seem relatively straightforward to you guys? Do you have any other particular questions before we talk to Vue?
I think we don't have some.
You have one general question.
You have. I think. Yep. So I do see that the JSON is still TBD. I think that would help us for testing as well.
Yes, agreed. Agreed.
We can also, we can use probably while developing, we can use that Swagger. It will give us the JSON if needed.
Yeah, let's find out if they're using Swagger. Yeah, hopefully they will. That would be really great. So yeah, that's another question to ask them, actually. And then the other question I have is just simply time frame, right? So how far, you know, this is a draft design, so when is this going to be ready? In the meantime, I will work on the designs with JAG for creating departments and creating programs. And because we have stories for these, where's Jira gone? Yeah, we have these stories. So create department, create edit department, create program, and then we've got the codes. Yeah, we've got the codes that go with these as well. So I would like to move these up depending on how we do in our current sprint, which starts today, Kalpana, right? Depending on how we do in that, I would like to put these into a pending sprint, either the next one or the one after, because I think this is the first development the viewer working on. So I'm going to work this week with Jag on finalizing the designs for these. And then depending on how quickly we get more information from View about the API, then we can start working on the back end and the front end for creating departments and programs.
Okay, Kat.
Yep.
We actually have some bandwidth in the current sprint also for the front end. If we have the designs ready, we can.
That sounds good. So yeah, we'll work on the front end of those, and then let's see if we can get some more information from View on specifications, and see if they've got some. I doubt. I have a sense that this is as far as they've got at the moment. So we might need to wait a bit more for some more detailed specifications like Swagger, etc. But let's ask them. So I think what I'll do is I will put together a short list of questions for Geo that I can send her, because she has set up a meeting to talk to us about this draft design on Thursday.
Yes.
Where is it? Design review. Yes. So let's see who's on that. And we fight with time zones here. Do we have the right people on here then?
For now, I have just included Vinod and Srivatsan, who are the backend developers.
Got it. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we can include one from QA and as well.
Yeah. Okay. I realize the time is a bit tricky as well. Okay, that sounds good. So I'll compile some questions. I'll post them on Slack, and then you guys can add any questions before I send them over to Geo. But otherwise, I kind of think it's just sort of understanding what their time frame is and answering a few basic questions.
Okay.
Sounds good. Okay. Kalpana, while you've got me on the call, do you want to check in on anything else? Are we all good for now?
We are good for now. Okay.
Got all our access and at last.
Yeah, we have access, yes.
Yes. Well done for being so persistent with that. I'm glad that we got there a couple of weeks after we wanted to, but never mind.
Yeah. Kat, just a note, tomorrow is a holiday here in Chennai, so we will not be available.
When is that, sorry?
Tomorrow is a holiday.
Okay, cool. Do we have a shared calendar?
Yeah, I have updated the capacity tracker that we have initially used.
That's great. So, I'm also wondering about a calendar, if we could have, because I've got on one of my other projects, I've got calendars and I can kind of see what the team are up to. So I could also add any time that I'll be away on there as well. So I wonder if we should have a shared calendar that might help us too, and we can put national holidays and things like that on it.
Okay, Kat. Okay, I'll create one in that case. Okay, currently we don't have.
That would be great.
Yeah. Okay, fine.
Yeah, that would be really good. Okay, sounds good. All right. So I'll put together those questions, and thanks a lot for joining me for the call, and sorry again for being late. I blame British trains. Talk to you guys soon.
Sorry?
Talk to you soon.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Have a nice day. Yep.